In divisive pipeline news, Ottawa continues to push for the expansion of Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau even had to interrupt an international diplomatic trip to meet with squabbling premiers and put his foot down.
Throwing the might and the money of the federal government behind Alberta to get a pipeline built to the BC coast.
The Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is a vital strategic interest to Canada. It will be built.
It's that kind of talk that pisses off British Columbia Premier John Horgan. Here's what he tweeted. "We have a duty to make sure the rights of all First Nations who could be affected by an oil spill are respected. The national interest is not served if we force the risk of catastrophe on unwilling communities, nor does it advance meaningful reconciliation." But I guess forcing the risk of catastrophe on unwilling communities doesn't apply to, say, massive hydroelectric dams like Site C, which, you kind of forced on First Nations right after getting elected. So what are First Nations in BC saying? It's not so simple.
No, Kinder Morgan!
Well, the political maneuvering continues. Those here say, so will the protests.
Well, some First Nations are strongly opposed to this pipeline and are challenging it in court. Dozens of others have signed lucrative agreements with Kinder Morgan and are frustrated that they could lose out on millions if the project doesn't go ahead.
Well, thankfully, there's a national organization that represents First Nations chiefs that can help mediate this. Here's what the Assembly of First Nations had to say.
You're going to have to read some of Byron's chicken scratch.
And Federal Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, Carolyn Bennett, also weighed in.
With BC and Alberta and Indigenous groups that are protesting the site. So it's not important?
She doesn't say much, but man, she wins the title of fastest white woman in a First Nation scarf, hands down.